Hello and welcome back to my garden. Today it's beautiful, bright and sunny, and I thought we'd do a tour of the greenhouse because I'm a little sore from yesterday. Yesterday I went around and I started doing some weeding around some of the fruit trees out in the orchard, and I put compost around their bases, and I dug up a couple of trees from the front lawn, well actually one tree and one shrub, an azalea and a crepe myrtle that I had out there that I mentioned in a prior video about a month ago, I think, that I was going to remove because now the property has changed and those plants where they were didn't make sense. Plus the deer kept eating the azalea. So I dug them up, potted them up. They're here in the vegetable garden and you'll probably see them in a later video at some point. Eventually, though, they're all going to go out into the rose garden, which is going to be a better protected space for all of them from the deer. The deer are a constant challenge around here, so I think having all of my more vulnerable plants in one location, although it is sort of a point where all the deer are probably going to head in the garden because they know where all the good stuff is going to be, I can hopefully better protect them between fencing and motion sprinklers and that kind of thing. None of that is why you tuned in today. You guys want to see what's going on in the greenhouse. But first, I have my citrus trees out here because hopefully we've had our last freeze. I'm not sure. We could still get another freeze before April, so I'm always keeping a close eye on the weather. But having the trees out here, sunshine, and getting rained on is much better than being in the greenhouse and me having to try to work around them because the greenhouse is getting quite crowded. Let's take a look at what's going on inside. So hopefully, as you can see, I have a lot going on in here. I have this bench filling up. I have this bench filled up. I'm actually even using some of my storage space. This rack back here normally just has pots and it has fertilizers and whatnot on it. But I have a tray with some dahlias on there, and I'm going to talk more about that in a minute. So things are happening here in the greenhouse. Let me give you a closer look as to what's going on here. Right here along the bench, I have all sorts of dahlias in various stages of growth. Now, I dug up all my dahlias from my dahlia bed last year, and I explained why, and I just did a video recently where I talked about reworking or amending that bed, as it were, and preparing it for a brand new season of growing, which is not something I normally need to do, and it might be the last time I ever do it, but it was something I just wanted to do now. So I dug up all my dahlias, and I started to divide some of them, not all of them, I divided a lot of them, and I put them away into storage, and some of them did better than others. I think I lost one variety, and I can't remember what it is. The tubers totally dried out. They were small to begin with, so it was always a risk. So they totally dried out, which was sad. But about a week and a half ago, I took all my dahlias out of storage, and I took a look at them, and I saw that many of them were either dried up or drying up. And so what I did was I started basically potting them all up here. So I took them, put them into some potting mix, and they're not going to stay in these. The purpose and the goal of these, and if you're a dahlia grower, feel free to shout at me if I'm doing something wrong. This is just what I'm doing. This is not expert advice. May not even be the right thing to do. But since many of them were starting to desiccate, starting to dry up, I decided to put them into pots and start to water them. Now, I'm not watering them heavily, but I am just giving them water just enough just to keep the soil mildly, just a little moist. My hope is that the tubers start to absorb some of that moisture, and once the soil gets warm enough, they'll start to put on a little bit of growth. Now, this will be good for two reasons. A, I'll know the tuber survived. And B, I'll know that some of these tubers, I don't know if they actually have eyes. So I'm going to pick this red skin dahlia here. So I don't know if you could tell at this top right here, I don't know. I don't know if there's going to be any eyes emerging out of this top, because that's normally where the eyes would emerge from, and the eyes then lead to stems and so on and so forth. So I don't know if all of these, when they were divided last year, I thought they may have had eyes, not sure. So they're in pots, they're doing their thing. And again, once the soil gets warm enough, then hopefully they'll start to, again, put on those eyes. So I may only have, let's say I have two Southern Bells right here. I may only have one that actually has eyes and puts on growth. I have, I don't know, a bunch of Sylvias, same thing. some of them, maybe none of them will put on growth. Maybe they just don't have eyes and they're not viable. I don't know yet, and I won't probably know for another couple of weeks. The soil has to warm up to a certain temperature, and then the dahlias will start to grow. And we're still at that point of the year where the nights get quite cold or cool, and that is enough to cool the temperature of the soil for the dahlia plants, and the dahlias need a certain soil temperature in order to start growing. So that's where we are there. But on the upside, I have a lot of dahlia seedlings that have done well. I planted my dahlia seedlings 2 to 3 weeks ago, and they all started putting on their true leaves recently. And I think I showed you guys in a previous video, but they were quite dense, or maybe I just put it up on Instagram, whatever it was. But the trays that they were in, they were quite densely planted. I saw a lot of true leaves coming out, so I took the time the other day and I up potted all of them. So again, they all look good. You can see the true leaves there. And hopefully, most of these, if not all of these, will make it to full growth, full size, and then I'll be planting these out. The ones I started from seed, again, are a mixed variety, and what was the other one? Watercolor. The watercolor is an open-faced, I believe, dahlia. Up here, I have more dahlias as well. I have some Bishop's Children and some other smaller tubers that I put up here. So just trying to maximize, just trying to use the most of the space. Back here I have my very sad looking succulents. I'm gonna have to give them some love once again. I always seem to ignore or don't pay too much attention to the succulents. I give them water, but beyond that, I don't really pay much attention. And then what happens is that the plants they get too big or they die or whatever it is. So I'll have to come back and at some point, probably after the spring rush, and I'll wind up repotting these and maybe doing some divisions and or propagation. Over here, I have my Mexican cigar plant, and I brought this into the greenhouse to overwinter, and I wasn't sure if it was gonna make it. It seems to be putting on new growth, which is fantastic. Again, I'm keeping it lightly watered, and hopefully once the danger of the last frost is gone, I can either put this out into the garden or I'll put it back up on the back deck, which is where I had it last year. I'm not sure. I have to look up to see if deer eat Mexican cigar plants. If they do, it won't. Earlier in the season, I dug up a Japanese anemone and part of the root broke off, and I was replanting the Japanese anemone. So I took that broken part of root and I potted it up. And as you can see, it's growing. So I'm pretty excited about this, and this will be going out into the flower garden underneath the pine tree that I have out there. So that'll be going out in the flower garden again after last frost. One of the things I did this year in the greenhouse was I took cuttings off of my Meyer lemon tree, and I don't know how well this is going to focus, but I have one still here with a leaf, but I have others that are putting on buds, or it looks like buds to me. Hopefully you guys can see that. So I'm pretty excited about that. I'm looking forward to hopefully having at least 3 more Meyer lemon trees, and I have an idea of where I'm going to put at least one of them, which I'm going to tell you guys about in a future video once I solidify those plans more. Let's look at the other side. All along this bench is where I have all of my seedlings that require a lot of sun, because this side of the greenhouse gets the most sun. Let's take a closer look at what's growing and what isn't working. Right here in the back corner, I have a Hot Lips Salvia. It grew it in the pot last year, and then I overwintered it here in the greenhouse, and it never seemed to lose any of its leaves, which is a good thing, and I've been keeping it watered, and it just seems to be happy in that little corner. Next to it, I have a Verbena White Sensation. It looks a little rough, but it's still alive. Back here, I have some Snapdragons. These are the tall maximum blend, and as you could probably tell, they need to be potted up. So that's probably one of the things I'm going to be working on this weekend. In front of them, I have a mixture of Snapdragon seedlings, which are already up potted, some that need to be up potted, and some dahlias, I believe, that are mixed in there. Speaking of dahlias that I've up potted, here's some more watercolor mix dahlias. Back here, I have a tray of purple coneflower, and there's a tray of Comfrena next to it, and these are more Snapdragons, and then I have yet more Snapdragons and some dahlias. Moving along, I have, what are these? These are Maltese Cross. So the Maltese Cross are doing quite well. I'll probably be up-potting them in the next week or so. Back over here, Powwow Echinacea White. Not a lot of seedlings, so I'm not sure about these, but they seem to be hanging in there. Back over here, I had a tray of Walla Walla onions. The seeds were 3 years old at least, so nothing really. I got a couple of weak ones here. I'm going to dump this tray because I have a lot of other onion seedlings that are growing at the moment, and I'll show you those in a second. And I need the space for all the plants that I'm up potting. Here's another dahlia that I put into a tray to give it some water, so that's hanging in there. English single white daisies, they're doing quite well. Got a whole tray full of them. They germinated very well. More up-potted plants. More up-potted dahlias. Right here, these are my sea hollies. I have 2 trays of sea hollies. They're also doing quite well. Hanging in there. Now back along here, I have some Amistad salvias. Now, I'd cut them back for the winter, and they all seem to have pretty good roots. I can't pull them out, but I haven't seen any new growth on them yet. So if you guys have any experience in growing Amistad salvias, please let me know. I've been keeping them watered just to keep the roots wet or moist. So I don't know if they're going to come back or not. And I have a few of these cuttings, and I really would like them if they started putting on new growth and coming back, but I don't know. So if, again, you guys have any experience with Amistad salvias, if you think these are dead, again, this is just one example, you think it's toast, let me know in the comments below. If you think I just need to wait a little bit longer for it to start putting on growth, again, let me know in those comments. I mentioned a second ago about onions. Yeah, so I had a tray just like this that I planted out recently. Actually 2 trays, I believe. 2 trays of 2 different types of onions. I can't remember which ones they are, but when we do a vegetable garden tour, you'll see that. These right here are Candy F1s. So they're looking really good. I'll be putting these out in the vegetable garden very soon, probably this weekend. Here's another one, Red Rock F1. Again, very, very good. So just from these 2 trays alone, I have more than enough onions to go around. Right here, I have a tray of Blue Cloud Transylvania Sage. Nothing happening with it yet, although it does have a long germination period, 14 to 30 days. So, and these were planted on the 22nd of February, so we still have time. Right behind them, I have the Bride Gara, and I have some of these pots where seedlings are coming up, but other pots are showing no life. And I just looked at the label, and this is why I put these labels on here. It says 21 to 35 days. So even though there's some pots that show no sign of growth, they may still germinate and come to life soon. Back here, I have a pepper plant, and it's putting on new growth. I'm going to pull that closer to the camera for you guys. So this was a plant that I dug up from the ground last year, and I pruned it back pretty hard, as you can see, and we have new growth emerging already. And this one is El Jefe Jalapeno, so that's coming in. Right here in front of it, I have balsam, so that's germinating quite well, and hopefully they start putting on the true leaves in the upcoming week, and then I'll probably up potting them in another couple of weeks. This tray here, I have 2 different types of sages. This one is clary sage. I've tried growing this in the ground, and I have several examples that have survived in the ground, but they've never put on a flower. And I'm not sure if that's just the natural habit of the plant, or if the soil is too rich for it, that they won't put on any flowers, they'll just put on leaves. So this year I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of these and I'll pot them up and I'll put them on the back deck, and they'll be in a drier environment. Back here I have Vatican White Clary Sage, and I think I only see 1 little seedling, so I'm going to have to wait a little longer on these guys. Back here I have, here's my Holborn Sweet Williams. So they're growing quite nicely, a lot of them there. And I don't see any true leaves yet, so it's probably going to another week or 2. And then I'll be potting them up eventually. Right next to it, and these just popped up the other day. Hopefully the camera focuses on that. You guys can see that. I have Agastache. And these are the giant hyssops. A couple of my tomatoes, these are Chadwick cherries. They've popped up. Now I'll probably only keep a couple of these plants, but I may up pot at least 4 of them. Here are my spoon tomatoes. Again, I'll probably only keep 1 or 2 of these plants, but I will up pot at least 4. More Sweet Williams. doing quite well. See, these are pink mums that I collected. I don't know the actual variety. I just know the mum is pink. I have it out in the flower garden. So I collected the seeds and I potted them up, and I doubt you're going to be able to see it, but right there, there's a little seedling poking up. So that's pretty neat, and hopefully I get some more seedlings out of that. So back over here, I have tall Coreopsis. Nothing showing on that one yet. This is Southern Globe Thistle, nothing happening with that. And these two trays are Canterbury Bells and more Canterbury Bells. So two different types of Canterbury Bells, but nothing to show yet with these. Back here I have parsley. And over here I have an African Daisy Polar Star. And I only have, out of an entire tray of seeds, 2 seedlings that have come up. So I'm not sure what's going to happen with these. These may also be a failure, but that's okay. These things happen. The seed packet I have is at least 2 years old. And then here, I'm very excited. I have one of my geraniums. I have out of 10 seeds, I had 5 come up. 5 have survived to this point. They're all potted up and they're all looking pretty good. So hopefully I can keep them alive. And then, not sure what I'm going to do with these, but I'm sure it'll be something fun and exciting. All right, we're going to go handheld a bit, so I'm sorry for the shaky camera, but I have a Dwarf Yupon, English Thyme, Apache Sunset. Nothing's happened yet. I just planted these the other day, chamomile. I've never had success in growing these out in the garden by doing direct sowing, so this year I'm trying to sow them in the greenhouse. This is Golden Jubilee Agastache, and you guys probably can't tell, but there's a couple of little plants in there. Salvia Big Blue, one of the varieties I'm really excited about growing this year. It looks like I only have 2 seedlings. More Sweet Williams. This tray right here is Salome White Queen, and it looks like I have a couple of seedlings going on there. English Thyme, just planted that the other day. English Shasta Daisy, looks like I have a couple coming up there. Agastache Licorice White, always a good performer for me. I have several coming up there. Rosemary. So I had a couple of rosemary plants coming up, which is good. Calico Beard Tongue, just planted that the other day. Cirrus Blue Salvia, that one's looking pretty good. Jasmine Tobacco, this one I'm going to have to pot soon. As you can see, they're getting quite large. Requiem's Delphium, looks like I only have 1 right now that has come up, but maybe I'll have more in the upcoming days. And I have some lavenders. Another container of parsley. Just planted that the other day, more lavenders. And then I have some Delphiums coming up right here. This is Fantasia Mix, so we'll see how that goes. And then I took some cuttings of my lemon coral sedum that I have in the driveway bed, and those cuttings took. So I'm looking forward to that. And I'm going to try to take some more cuttings in the springtime when the plant really starts coming up. And then of course in the corner, I have my aloe. So as you can see, I have a lot going on in the greenhouse, and the greenhouse is getting quite full. The reason I'm standing out here is because I'm also thinking about making changes to this space here. Normally I take my seedlings at some point, and I'll probably start doing it soon, if I feel comfortable enough that the danger of frost has passed, or freeze, and I'll start putting my bigger, stronger plants out here on the potting bench. Now this year, I'm thinking about moving the potting bench to where you guys are. It'll be more exposed, a little bit more exposed to the elements, and it'll get more direct sunlight. But I think that'll be okay, because I'm thinking about moving all of these cuttings here from my various shrubs and putting them over here against the greenhouse. And with a little luck, maybe, possibly, I'm not holding my breath here, but with a little luck, maybe this year I'll start to build my potting shed over where the shrubs are right now. I also have on the back deck a cold frame. So I'm thinking about possibly putting some of the young tender plants into the cold frame, and then if there is a danger of frost or freeze, then I can close the lid to the cold frame, and it should protect the plants for that period of time. I eventually like to get something maybe more permanent cold frame wise on the other side of the greenhouse, but that's a tale for another day. If you guys have any questions or comments, please leave them below. If you want to see something else in detail, again, please leave those comments below. Sophie here would much appreciate it if you turned around and subscribed to the channel. Click that bell icon to be notified when I do post up a new video. This way you can see what's going on here in the garden. There's so much stuff. I'm building a garden here in Growing Zone 8B. If you weren't aware, there's still a lot to do. Not just the yearly maintenance and or plantings that are going on here, but there's infrastructure that I'm building, whether it be gates or fences or a walkway, which I just did this winter here in front of the greenhouse. There's always something going on. There's a lot of big projects coming up. There's going to be more concrete projects once the weather gets warmer, and I hope to do something that might interest quite a few of you, a DIY project. I'm still working out the kinks on that one, but hopefully I'll be doing that in the next month or two. So that's going to wrap it up for today. I'm going to catch you guys on the next one. Bye-bye.